Welcome everyone, I'm Amy. I am an NPC fit model and bikini competitor, and I'm also a nutritional therapy practitioner. And this is week 2 of my post-fit model show vlog, I guess. I don't really have a name for this one or a direction, which I talked about in last week's video. So in the intro, I'm going to talk about my feedback from Erin from my check-in last week, and some plans for the week and all that good stuff. So if you watched my last week's video, you know that I was struggling pretty hard with just some post-show, not great feelingness, post-show blues, just really not feeling super great following the show, both physically and mentally about the whole thing. And I can't say I'm doing a whole lot better this week so far, but let's talk about my feedback first and then we'll get into that. So feedback from Erin was fine. It was fine. You know, a couple weeks ago when I first had the flare of the eczema, I mentioned to him that I felt like that was directly related to my gut, which at the time he said, absolutely not, that's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with that, I'm just stressed. Well, he changed his tune in this check-in and said that 100% the very first thing he thinks about is the gut when he thinks about skin conditions, which is ironically enough what I said in that video. You know, as a nutritional therapist, your skin's your largest detox organ, so that's always where my mind goes, which is where my mind went. But you know, I've kind of just been in this cycle of him telling me I was just stressed out, and you know, that's all I needed to do was manage stress and chill out and just chill out. So he recommended that I go on a strict carnivore diet for a week, taking out all carbohydrates, just doing trace carbs from vegetables only, and protein and fat. I can't say I'm 100% on board with that plan. It just is a very big swing, a really rapid one, and I tend to approach things differently, but then again, I have a coach for a reason. So that was his feedback about that. He said that my weight gain was nothing, which it isn't. It is very much something, and it is very high. I'm unhappy about it and don't like it. I also think that it's not really fair to tell me that it's nothing when it is definitely something to me, and that is a meaningful part of being an athlete. Also, the amount of weight I've gained percentage-wise for my body size is quite large. So that's frustrating. You know, when I'm dealing with something that is a very large gain and that I'm unhappy with, to have my coach tell me that it's absolutely nothing and it's fine is not helpful to me as an athlete or in processing how I'm feeling. Not helpful at all, which I don't think he's trying to be unhelpful, obviously. And he did say that I look great and that I look fine, but I don't look great. I don't look fine. I don't feel fine. I'm not happy about it. I'm not feeling good. So that was it. That was the feedback. So I'm not feeling great about it all still. I'm definitely still struggling to kind of come to a place of acceptance. I mean, there's a part of me that, yes, I understand that I needed to gain some weight this off season. However, I've reached that kind of top amount that I'd always set for myself, like that I would not go over this amount unless there was like definitive reason to go over it, and to have this huge leap up to it, regardless what my coach says about it being a very large leap. It is, percentage of body weight wise, it is a very big leap in a very short amount of time, and it's distressing. And I think that that's fair and that's valid to feel that way. And I'm just trying to kind of process through all of that. And since, like I said, my coach was not helpful in any of that, I'm kind of just left to deal with it on my own, which is fine. My coach means no ill will by that, and I do believe him when he looks at my pictures and thinks I look fine. That is absolutely fine, but it doesn't help me feel any better about it, and it doesn't help me feel like I'm making a plan forward in a positive way. I feel very much like I am in a not great position right now, especially coming out of doing a show and looking and feeling really not good. That's not a great place. I mean, I don't know where we build from here, I guess, is my big concern. So he is competing this week. I don't want to be a problem, so I'm going to kind of just try and deal with this myself and see how that goes. So that is where we're at. But this week I do have some fun things coming up. It's a busy week, work as usual, but I am going to be a guest on the Hormones for Me podcast. I will put a little link to their channel up here. I'm going to be with Ryan and Eric and Jay. They asked me to come in and talk about nutrition. And I, of course, responded, absolutely, I'd love to. Is there something specific that they wanted to cover? And the response was, well, it's about nutrition. And I'm like, I'm going to need more than that, guys. Like, that's like telling an astronomer to talk about stars. But, they said, whatever you want, like, just make a plan and we'll go from there. So I thought a lot about it. I talked to my assistant about it and just kind of thought like, well, when people say that, when people say like talk about nutrition, what do they mean? And that's going to be different for every person who says that. But what I thought might be great, because the Hormones for Me has such a great audience, they have a really intelligent audience who asks great questions, they listen. These are people who are engaged and really care about their health and longevity and optimizing their health. I'm like, well, let's just do this. Let's just go basic. Let's do the basics of nutrition. Like, start at what I consider for myself as a nutritional therapist, the fundamentals. So a whole food, properly prepared, nutrient-dense diet, like what is that? And like what makes that, what is the makeup of that? Talk about the difference between the macronutrients, also talk about the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, water, why all of these things are important. So I'm working on, almost have finished a presentation to share, and it's going to be really fun. They also have Mike Horner. I'm actually going to be on his channel next. Well, I'm recording with him next Monday. I was supposed to record with him on Saturday, but ended up having to work. So recording with him on Monday of next week. So that'll be really fun too. And I don't know when that episode's going to come out, because he is deep in prep, and at that point will be in his peak week, which I need to actually reach out to him and make sure that he really wants to record on peak week. Maybe he does. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for keeping your mind occupied, but I also don't want to add a lot to his plate when he's in peak week. So I'm going to remind myself to do that, but it'll be fun. So he can, chime in. He coaches a lot of clients as well. He is a bodybuilder. I'm kind of trying to approach this more from a lifestyle client standpoint and talk about those fundamentals of health that I would talk about with any other lifestyle client. So I'm excited. And if there's clips that I will insert, I might insert some clips later on in the video. I also have a shopping haul to share. And then of course, my outro from the week, I'll talk about my check-in. So with all that said, it is beautiful weather in Colorado right now, but we're supposed to have a big snowstorm at the end of the week, just in time for Easter. So that should be fun. You never know what you're gonna get. It's gone back and forth. It's like every other weekend. We had snow on my show weekend, then the following weekend was in the 80s. So if we have snow again, and then the following weekend will be in the 70s. So I'm here for it. This is how spring is in the mountains. So thank you all so much for joining along on this week. If you have any thoughts, feedback, questions about how I'm riding the struggle bus still following my show, please leave those in the comments below. And there will be timestamps for whatever comes next.
My power went out, but I wanted to talk about Amy and
yeah,
I think you have that queued up, so we're going to talk about that later.
Oh no, we're ready to do that now. Let's talk about her competition, because she did really well. She actually won.
Yeah.
And
I competed in FitModel, the new NPC FitModel category. It was the first FitModel show in Colorado, and I was the only person in the tall girl class, so I did take my class. There's my statue there on the floor next to me.
Yeah, let's give a look here. We're gonna get it better. Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
She looked, and she walked on stage like this, right? You didn't even do a prep.
No, I did not do a prep. This was literally just a walk-on show.
Wow.
So I was just telling Eric and Jay prior that I was actually eating more the 2 weeks leading into the show than I am now, because we were trying to carb up for those couple of weeks. So it was more food going in.
Yeah.
Overall, those were the winners from the A and B class. Next to me, the woman in the middle is the one who won.
The
girl next to her. Yeah, the one next to her. That was her first show ever. She'd never done a show at all.
Really?
Not only was it her first show, but she won her class.
Good showing, huh?
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I was
a lot taller.
That's got to be a tough one to judge. You guys you all look great, and you all look like you fit the class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think what it really comes down to is between the two of them. I mean, they were just, a good 7-8 inches shorter than me, and they just looked a lot more like bubbly. They just had that more bubbly look for sure. So they both looked gorgeous. They looked so good.
I thought it was funny. Like on your podcast, you were talking about how you had to wear your shorter 4-inch heels because you're already like a foot and a half taller than everybody else.
Oh yeah, when I saw that I was the only person in my height category, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should wear my 4-inch heels because like
Oh
I
yeah,
mean nothing like at least I'd be an inch shorter, rather than the 5-inch. And I mean you can't I was leaning so far forward too, trying to like look like I was
yeah,
shorter. So like we were all standing out there together, like I was like putting my hip like way
yeah.
back and trying to like kind of lean down so like I looked shorter. It did not work. I still
No,
looked tall.
still do. Really funny.
Yeah. No.
This
That's
is a
great.
great
No, it was
picture here.
really
I love
fun.
this.
I
Yeah.
can't believe like they called you in and then but they didn't mean to, or like, right? So
Oh
like you panicked
yeah.
because they told you needed to be there, and you raced to the back to the show, and then
Yeah,
you
well,
got
it
to
was
hear that
weird
story if you
because they
want
Yeah,
were
to
let's
hear
doing
hear
it.
it.
Yeah, they had the regular show, the NPC show, but then in the middle they ran a natural show, like a a show. So they did prejudging, and then they had the tested show, and then they did finals. Well, finals was scheduled to start at 4 p.m. and about 1 o'clock, I'm sitting at home, I was just gonna like have a little snack, go for a walk, and I get a notification that my show's bodybuilders were on stage and the bikini and fit model need to be getting glazed. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, did they change something? Because by that point I knew the natural show was over, but there still should have been a few hours. So I was just like panicking. I got on the promoter's website. I looked at all the other notifications. Like all the other notifications were for the natural show, but this one specifically was for my show, which was the Northern. So I literally dropped what I was doing, brushed my teeth, and got in my car and like flew back up to the venue,
Oh,
which was like a 30-minute drive. I'm like, I can make it. Like I might not have time to get like my tan touched up, but it's fine. And I get there and there's the natural show was over and like people were just like milling around. So I ended up just having to wait around for the extra like 3 hours backstage waiting to go on.
oh my
But it
god.
was fine.
Well, I
Yeah.
heard because one of my friends, Bree, she was at the Arnold with us. She was in the powerlifting competition there, but she was telling a horror story about a show where there was just some disconnect between them going on stage and them getting ready, and they were all in makeup, getting ready in makeup when they suddenly called down and said, "Hey, you guys got to be on stage now," and they weren't. They were only halfway through makeup, so
Oh,
there was just this
shoot.
massive disconnect. So then when you started to tell that story on your show there or on your diary, I was like, oh my god, did she miss it? Like, because it brought back, like, I can imagine the horror. Can you imagine the horror? You're at this show, you pay for it, it's your time to go on stage, and there's just a disconnect, and you're only halfway through your makeup, and they're like, no, you got to go now or you miss it. She ended up missing
No.
that appearance. It's just crazy.
Oh, well, I was panicked too because it was I knew that I'd won my class, so I knew I'd be going for the overall. I mean,
Yeah.
like, so I was even more panicked. I'm
All
like,
right.
oh my gosh, like I
I can
can
imagine.
make it.
I can imagine how that would
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. Not great for the cortisol levels, but and then, you're just kind of stuck there. I'm like, I could have been at home for several hours.
Yeah,
Instead,
right.
I was sitting on a gymnasium floor.
Yeah.
But like you said, right, Ryan, it's just the disconnect and the communication and the organization is not always the best
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
a show.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I got another
Mike.
picture here. I'm gonna show you guys in one
Oh,
moment
yeah,
here. I just want to got a couple more pictures. Let me
Yeah, yeah.
close this up. I'm trying
For
to
sure.
copy these questions. All right, let's do this. All right, this is Amy here. She got her
Okay.
trophy. Look
Okay.
at that.
Great.
And I love
How
her
did you
hair
feel?
here. This is just great.
How
How'd you feel, Amy?
It was kind of weird because it was just like a normal day. I'm like, this is just like
Mhm.
any other day,
Mhm.
except I'm tan. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
kind of strange not doing like a formal peak and not really knowing I was, not knowing I was doing the show until I didn't actually sign up for the show until the week before. And it wasn't until the promoter reached out to me and was like, hey, I thought you might be doing this show, but I don't see your name on the list and the prices go up tonight.
Oh my
So
god.
I'm like, I guess I should register. I mean, this was
Yeah.
like the Thursday before. So
Oh my
it
god.
was really last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, and
Good.
it's always fun to compete. And it
Mhm.
reminds you that even though it's like a very individual sport, when you're like preparing for it, like when you
Mhm.
get there and like everybody worked so hard and everybody looks so good. And,
Mhm.
it's such a fun atmosphere to be around all the other athletes, especially on the local level. As cool as it is to be at a big national show, it's really cool to be at a show close to home because these are all people like for the most part, that are from my state or really close by. Like a lot of people come from Wyoming to do shows in Colorado. But
Mhm.
it's that feeling of like, we're all in this together. We're all tan
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I guess we call it brotherhood or sisterhood, right? The sisterhood
Yeah.
in this case really is special. It is something like I can see it at the bodybuilding shows, and that's what Aaron, your coach, talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really great to see.
It is. It's a fun sport.
Oh,
There's my lady.
This is the
that's a nice
trophy. Look at that.
That's nice. I like it.
That's my first trophy. I've always just gotten like the medal that you hang around your neck, which is what I was assuming I was gonna get
Oh
from this
yeah.
one too. So when she came out with that, I was like, oh my gosh.
That's nice.
Now is that solid too? Is it nice and heavy?
It's pretty heavy. The bottom part is hollowed out in the back, but the whole top, like her body, is all solid. And then it's just that base piece
Mhm.
that's got some hollow bits in the back. But yeah, it's sturdy. Like I could use that as a good weapon if someone was to break into my house.
Yeah, absolutely.
She'd be a formidable bat.
She's a similar color to you on the stage.
Yeah.
Yes, she's bronze. Well, thank you guys so much. And I have to say, when Eric first asked me to talk about nutrition, and I asked him, specifically what you guys wanted to cover, and he responded with, "We'll talk about nutrition." I was like, "That's like asking an astronomer to talk about stars, because you got to give me some direction." But so I just decided, like, well, I take for granted the knowledge I have sometimes, and I think I'm like, well, what would I do just to, like, if somebody said that, like, tell me about nutrition, I'm like, well, let's just start at the basics. And so that's what I did. I just kind of did a run through of kind of the fundamentals of just what nutrition is, kind of some breakdowns of the micros and macros, some mineral and vitamin talk, and then also toward the end, how I kind of structure a diet when I'm looking to, like, kind of space things out for somebody.
Mhm.
I can't see the slideshow. Can you guys see it?
No, I had a tech issue. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. No
I
worries.
got it playing now. I got it playing now. It
The
froze up on
one
me.
thing
There we go.
there we go. So nutrition is a noun, but it is the science, and science is a study, right? Science is an ever evolving thing. Science is not static. So nutrition is a science focused on the interactions between living organisms and their food. And I think some people might be surprised to know that that's the definition of nutrition. The study of the biological processes used by the body to break down, absorb, and utilize the nutrients contained in food. So that is the dictionary definition of nutrition. So
Okay.
So when I did the water at the beginning, I thought it was important to talk about what are some of the intake guidelines for water, because we tend to be quite dehydrated. Like, people don't consume as much water as is really optimal for human function. So I always tell people the very minimum amount of water they should be intaking a day is half their body weight. So take your body weight divided by 2. That's the minimum amount of water
Okay.
that you should be drinking.
I like that.
And yes, the poison is in the dose. You can drink too much water, but most people are going to be limited by their lifestyle if they're trying to consume too much water, meaning they're going to be spending like so much time in the bathroom, they're not going to be functional. So You do want to adjust if you're consuming a lot of diuretic beverages, specifically people who are consuming, for me, I look at things like alcohol. I don't really count unless you're drinking like tons of coffee. Coffee is not as much of a diuretic as people think it is. But if you are consuming a lot of diuretic beverages, what I do is I take those ounces times by 1.5 and then add the body weight and divide by 2
Mhm.
just to adjust for those. And also to sip throughout the day and not chug. That is something I see specifically with bodybuilders and competitors is they chug a ton of water, right? Just trying to fill their stomach with volume, which is fine as long as you're not doing that near meals. Because if you're doing that with food, you're just really diluting your stomach acid,
Mm.
and you're gonna have a much harder time digesting your food. So specifically around meals, you want to take sips of water, and just in general to keep your body like well hydrated throughout the day. You're gonna be better off like getting like a nice. It's like a stream of water through your body, not like a waterfall every once in a while. It's not the what is it the geyser. You're not Old Faithful with your water
Yeah.
consumption. Keep it going all the time. Okay, Mike. So food selection, really, I mean, when you're looking for food, variety is key. And this is where bodybuilders and myself also, we become very much creatures of habit or eating like only the same 5 foods all the time. Well, that's not great. So you want to eat a diversity, a wide range of different things, animals, plants, things maybe you've never heard of, like cuts of meat you've never heard of, like get the oxtail, like figure out how to cook that, like cook the chicken feet. But think local, talk to people at your farmers markets. Like Mike found this amazing kimchi person at his farmers market. So eating foods that are sourced as close to where you live as possible, especially things like honey. Again, if you can find somebody who will sell you raw dairy, I mean, it's just these are awesome, like little gems of food that we can find. And then eating with the seasons. There's actually a great book that's called Eating with the Seasons that is an Eastern medicine book, but it really talks about where like why those foods are nourishing at certain times of year, and there's truth to that. And if we were eating more seasonally and more locally, it's going to just by default increase the diversity of our diet, which is always a good thing. So I think that's it. Was that my last one? That was my last
That's
slide.
it.
That was
Thank
it.
you.
And we're back. It is the end of my second week post Fit Model show. And in the outro, I'm going to talk a little bit about my feedback that I sent to Erin this week. And also, that's really kind of it. I didn't have a whole lot else planned for this outro. I hope you guys enjoyed the clips I put in of my nutritional discussion with the guys at Hormones for Me. Oh my goodness, they are just the best group of guys. I have referred so many of my personal friends, which is the biggest compliment, but also clients and patients to Ryan's clinic. There is no one in the hormone space who actually cares more about everyone they interact with than Ryan. I am just blown away by his continual desire to learn and to help people and to really optimize everyone's health. Like it just, I can't say enough good things about him. And I also love Jay and Eric. They're just such a great team. And of course, Mike. Mike is awesome too. And I'm actually going to be on Mike's vlog channel next week. So that's going to be really fun also. So lots of exciting stuff. And I really had a great time getting to talk to them about nutrition and just kind of start that, like I said, just baseline conversation about the fundamentals of nutrition as I see it as a nutritional therapy practitioner, really going with the 5 pillars or the fundamentals of health and then building from there. Of course, also acknowledging that everyone is a bio-individual and has unique needs that are different, and there is no one perfect diet for everybody. So it was really fun. So that was my time with the Hormones for Me, guys. So let's talk about my check-in from the week. My internet just says it was restored, but I don't believe them. My internet has been out for the last 2 days, and it just sent me a notification that's back, but I'm still getting a notification that I have no Wi-Fi. So I don't think you're right, Xfinity. I think I still don't have internet. But it's been a week of kind of upset weather, so I think that's been part of it. I don't know why. I'm not even going to try to diagnose what's wrong with Xfinity. But let's talk about my check-in for the week. So I did end up taking pictures and sent those along with my check-in. In my check-in, the first question, it actually has changed the wording slightly, and I don't know if that's something that my coach did or if that was just something that the app did, but asked to note any meals you're having issues or problems with, any digestive issues, which meals, be specific with symptoms. I did say that I'm still kind of managing some of my digestive issues, having some general small intestine symptoms as well, and I think that's a lot of my lower abdominal bloating, and I really do. I think kind of just thinking back on it, I feel like some of this stuff that's going on, like with that kind of just distended, bloated look I have, is seeming kind of like maybe some small intestinal symptoms. I don't know if I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I did mention it in a video, that you cannot diagnose like SIBO or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth through a GI map or through a stool sample. So I've been just kind of backtracking some of my symptoms and some of the issues I've been having in the last couple of weeks, and I really do feel like a lot of it is more small intestine versus large intestine related. So I don't know that getting a GI map is going to be ultimately all that helpful right now. I didn't say that to Aaron. This is something I'll tell him more about in my check-in for next week. Overall feeling, or how do you feel / overall well-being? And I said, I've honestly not been doing great and didn't want to add to your workload on peak week. I waited a couple of days. My usual check-in day is Thursday, and I sent this through on Sunday just to kind of give him the days of his leading up to his show off of having to feel like he needed to respond to my check-in since there's nothing to do. I said, congratulations on your class win yesterday. Weight was high throughout most of this week. I know you don't think it's anything, but it is meaningful to me and a sign that my body is definitely not functioning at its full potential. My weight has been up still a good 10 pounds from the day after show, which to be holding on to 10 pounds of weight for 2 weeks, just kind of out of the blue is not, like I said, it's definitely means that my body is not functioning at its full potential, is what I put. I'm working through my small intestine symptoms and lower abdominal bloating. I'm not a big fan of straight carnivore, which is what he recommended I switch to last week, but would consider running a full AIP or SCD protocol for a few weeks. And he didn't know what, he was not sure what those were, so I did tell him. AIP is advanced autoimmune protocol, and SCD is specific carbohydrate diet. And ultimately, I think that a better course of action would maybe be to do just really like a modified low FODMAP diet, which is kind of what the SCD is. They're different in some ways, the specific carbohydrate diet and low FODMAP and ultimately the AIP, they all they're like a Venn diagram, right? They all have areas where they intersect and areas where they're slightly different, and you just kind of have to figure out which one's going to be the best fit. I do think that the specific carbohydrate diet is likely far too restrictive just for the sake of being restrictive. Like, you can always add more restriction, and that's what I try to work with clients too, that you can always take more things away. I mean, if somebody's in severe distress and we're doing like a full elimination diet, that's different, but I think that taking too much away all at once for some people can add more stress to their life and make their symptoms potentially worse depending on what they're dealing with. So I never want to seek restriction just for the sake of restriction, like just to make it feel hard. Like that isn't always the answer. So those are kind of things I've been toying around with and will continue to think about this week. I said the rash on my face and legs is still clearing up. It's almost gone. On my legs, it is gone. On my face, it is definitely not. I'm still having some pretty significant intermittent swelling of my eyelids. I don't know if that's related to eczema or allergies at this point, but I've been taking a lot of allergy medication, which I don't like living on. And then I also did order some allergy eye drops that were going to be delivered. And if it didn't get better, I was going to schedule to see my eye doctor. The eyes have gotten slightly better at this point, but it is not perfect. Still struggling with all of the above. Next question is, how is your recovery and what week of the mesocycle I'm in? So it was meso week 5. I said some soreness and heaviness in my legs and glutes throughout the week. Like, my legs did just feel heavy, like it's that feeling of being like sore, but more than anything, just feeling kind of like dead legs, like just heavy legs. And maybe it's because they are getting heavier. They literally weigh more. Nothing terrible, and I felt well recovered, but definitely felt the extra effort this week pushing toward failure. I don't necessarily feel like I need a deload week. I think just switching over to the upper meso is kind of a built-in deload of the legs would be good. And that's really how I was feeling like, by Saturday, Sunday, feeling like, my legs were still feeling kind of heavy, but that it wasn't like my upper body was not feeling bad at all. Like that I could just kind of jump right into that upper focused meso and just start hitting my arms and upper body a little bit harder. And that only has like one leg exercise per lift and some none. There's no like real full leg day. So that seemed like it might be a good idea. So we'll see what he says. Issues I'm having with any exercises, I said none. Anything else he should know? I kept it simple. I said not loving the way I'm looking, but working on my self-thoughts and body image. Blood pressure, how much water? I did decrease my water. He had asked me to increase my water the previous week, so I did. And then he gave me feedback that I needed to be drinking less water, which I'm like, I was only drinking more water because he told me to drink more water, but I will now drink less water. So cutting back on my water to more of my normal intake and trying to cut back a little bit from what would be normal for me based on what he recommended last week. Quality of sleep, I put as a 7, recovery as a 7, energy I put as a 6, digestion as a 7. It's getting there. It's not back to 10, but it's getting there. Stress, I just put as normal, 4 to 5. Same thing with hunger, 4 to 5. Glucose, steps, any other things about sleep routine. And then personal goals for the week, be honest, areas you could do better in. I put vacuums and work on my body image. Pumps with the training session, I put as an 8. They were really good. Workload, I put as a 7. Still feels like hard but doable. It doesn't feel like I'm overreaching by any means. Even, I mean, yes, the workouts themselves were hard, but I don't feel like the overall volume or overall load is too much. So put that as a 7. Anything else you should know about training? Any exercises that cause pain? No and no. My sleep score was an 87. And then my resting heart rate and HRV, and then pictures. So that was my check-in for the week. And yes, I do know that I need to kind of work on my body image. Absolutely. However, I do mean what I say when I said to him that, you know, this is a meaningful percentage of weight, and it's more than that. It's just kind of frustrating to see my weight go up like that. I haven't changed anything. Eating the exact same foods. I was eating the exact same thing on peak week. You know, we didn't change anything. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me why there's been this sudden increase in weight. So I think that's been part of what's been stressful. It's not like I had some massive off-plan meals or was going out and partying or doing anything like that. My life just kind of went on as normal before and after the show. So it's just feeling kind of frustrating that with, like, you know, of course, whatever stuff is going on with my skin is getting to me. So it's all just kind of been getting to me a little bit. So working on what I can do from a body image standpoint on that side. I did have an incredibly awesome comment last week on my video that I'm going to pull up and read, because it was just, it came at the time when I really needed to read it. And I appreciate you guys so much. Everyone who watches and comments, like it really does mean the world to me. And I read every single comment, and you know, they really mean a lot to me. So this one was just, like I said, it came in at just the right time, which was great. It was from Athanos, and he said, "You went into uncharted territory without full prep. That's courageous. A person isn't great because they never failed. They're great because they didn't let failure stop them. Keep grinding, Amy." And that was, thank you so much. I really feel like all of us maybe need to hear that sometimes, that being great doesn't mean you never fail or struggle. It just means that you don't let that stop you. And that's really, I say that to people all the time when they talk to me about, like, how long am I going to keep bodybuilding, or, you know, why do I keep going to the gym? You know, and I kind of feel like if you just don't stop, you know, one day, it's like what they say, like with children, you know, like one day it was your last day playing in the sandbox, but you didn't know that at the time. And we don't know, like none of us know how much time we have doing any activity, whether that is having a person in our life, or a pet, or a job, or a family member, or whatever. You don't know when the last time you're going to get to do any given activity is. I mean, you think of a person who gets in a terrible accident and is paralyzed. You know, I know that's extreme, but did they know that the day before that was the last day that they were going to be walking? I mean, no, you know, none of us know. So don't stop, you know, keep doing everything you want to do until you can't. And that's kind of my thoughts and philosophy about bodybuilding, and just about maintaining good health in general. You know, that's my motivation to just keep going in life, is to, you know, be healthy and to really get everything I can out of it before this phase of my life is different, or until I'm in a different phase of life and maybe can't do these things, or don't have the freedom or accessibility to everything I have right now. So I hope you all take a little bit of inspiration from that. I am working on my body image and dealing with all of my weird things that are going on in my body right now and trying to find some creative solutions and diagnoses for what might be going on. So that was my check-in for the week. Like I said, that's all I had planned for this outro. I didn't have anything else. This might be a shorter video, which might be good if my internet never comes back on. It'll take me forever to upload this over Wi-Fi. The internet, I live in a part of the city that is old, so it did not have, it had old internet, right? Like the old wires. So it did not have broadband or whatever it is now, like the giga internet. So that is finally coming, or it has come to the part of the city that I live in, but it doesn't seem like it works as well as maybe it should be. When it works well, but it hasn't been working for the last couple of days at all. So clearly there's something that they are working out the kinks in the Giga system as well. But until next week, I hope that you all have an amazing week. And please, please, please spread positivity and light to yourself and everyone around you. We don't know how many more days we get in each phase of life, so enjoy it to its fullest. And I will see you all here next time.